Welcome to After Hours Ag. I'm Matt, your host, and I've got a Ray Meyer, a farmhand, a father, husband, and a lot of other things that you're going to learn about. We're here at Dakotafest.
Mitchell, South Dakota.
Mitchell, South Dakota. You just heard from our producer.
That's right. Madison is here.
Madison NG.
I'd say he's in the house, but we're not.
We're not in the house.
We're in the tent.
Madison's in the tent.
We're in the tent. The ready tent.
We are enjoying walking. We're enjoying watching people walk by.
True.
We're not walking. We're sitting in some nice chairs here. And it is a nice day, overcast, a little bit warm, but with the overcast and under the shade, it is nice. And we want to bring to you an awesome episode where you get to hear some really neat experiences from someone who's got some different background in machining and fabrication, working with farm equipment, working for a farmer. And I've really enjoyed getting to know Ray. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks, Matt. Sure appreciate it.
He said it's his first podcast, too, so he's going to do awesome.
Hey, beginner's luck. That's what I always say.
Right.
Well, let's get started with letting everyone know, letting the viewers, the listeners hear, what is a background about you, Ray? Kind of tell us about yourself, some interesting things that people would want to know.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in North Eastern South Dakota, up by the Millbank, and grew up there. My dad and family farmed organic for, well, they've going on almost 40 years now, and grew up there and was homeschooled, went to Lake Erie Tech in Watertown for machining, and worked in the machining field for a few years, and then eventually found myself on a farm in central South Dakota near Huron, and been working there for the last 11 years. So.
All right, some tenure there. Now, what caused you to go from, like, you've got this machining degree, right? And obviously you could have chosen to work for a lot of manufacturers, a lot of different industries. Now you pursued or got into farming. What got you into working with a farm?
Yeah, so it was kind of a interesting little story. I was working at a machine shop in Brookings, South Dakota, and at the time, and my sister, of all people, called me up and said, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" And I was like, "Well, not really." And she was working in the ag and cattle business and sales, and she had known my boss for quite some time, and he had called her looking for some help. And about a day later or so, I get this phone call out of the blue, and it was my current boss. He says, "Hey, I hear you're looking for a farming job." I says, "Well, not really, but I guess if you know, what do you got to offer?" And he said, "Well, I think you should just come over and visit sometime in person." And I said, "Well, we'll see how it goes." Well, about a week later, he calls back again and says, "Hey, I really want you to come over and see what we have to offer." And so I took a trip over to Huron and met with him actually out in the field. He was out discing, and he just gave me an address to the field, and I showed up, and so we just sat in the tractor and visited for a while, and had to unplug his disc. I don't know if he remembers that or not, but he had just gone through a wet spot and plugged up his disc, so I suppose that was the interview right there.
It was a test.
It was the test.
Let's see what this guy could do.
We'll see if he pitches in or not.
That's right.
Yep. And so yeah, we got to talking, and he offered me a position of working with cattle and doing just general maintenance and whatever fab work needs to be done on a farm, which is a lot some days. And I tell people I have one of the greatest jobs in the world, because I have literally gone from working cattle in the morning and riding horse to planting in the afternoon and fixing or welding or machining somewhere in between there, and 5 different things in the middle of in one day.
Wow.
So
do you like that?
Yeah,
do you like that variety?
I do. It's great. I've grown up with working cattle, working on the farm, and then also had a taste for manufacturing as well, and so being able to go from both or from all the extremes, and then be able to come back into manufacturing, do that. It's something that I was trained on, that I enjoy building things and creating things and fixing my mistakes some days. So that's just, it's a total blessing to be able to have that variety in a job.
Nice.
So.
Not a lot of people can say they did all those things in one day, from cattle.
Not unless you're a farmer.
That's right.
Yeah, well, you could throw in cook too, because I wasn't married at that time, so it was microwave meals, and it's still cooking. So
Speaking of, you're married.
I am. Yep, my wife and son is watching out there. Luke is 15 months, and
he's just had a nap, so he's ready to rock.
He's ready to rock.
Just let him loose.
Yep. Yeah, he keeps his mother and I very busy.
Mm-hmm. And then another interesting fun fact with Ray is they just got back from Australia.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
He went down under.
So have you, though?
Over there. Yeah,
Both of
I was
you
there.
down
I was
under.
there, just not same time. So we had that connection. We talked about that here a little bit ago, and talked about what we thought of Australia, what we thought was cool, and what was different. And
so I gotta ask you, Matt, where was your compass when you were down there?
My compass, like, what does that mean?
Like, so when I got down there, my compass was off 180 degrees.
Oh,
so east was west and west was east for me.
You know what was off for me? I had to rent a car and the steering wheel was on the wrong side. It doesn't matter which way your compass is. I'm on the wrong side of the road.
If I had $1 for every time I went to the wrong side, I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now.
Well, I pulled out in front of people at least once, maybe a couple times.
Don't worry, I saw the video. It was more than once.
Yeah, no, I was filming while I was driving. So. No, good thing Madeline was with me as a co-pilot and navigator at times. And you know what, Google Maps, it saves you.
I asked our family who lives over there, because they come here quite often, and I asked them, I said, you drive left hand and right hand, what is there one or the other that is more convenient than the other? And he says no. He says the only thing that's different is you can't do a left turn at a stoplight like we can do a right turn on a stoplight. It's right on red, yeah.
Yeah.
So
if everything was opposite, they should be able to turn left on
they
left,
should,
but they don't.
Yep, they don't.
Interesting.
You know how many times I walked up to the car to get in as the driver and got
You're like,
to the wrong side? I'm like,
Yep.
not again. My wife and I just laughed at each other every time. So, no, that was a good experience.
Yeah.
Highly recommend if you can make a trip to Australia. We were in South Africa before that. It's incredible to experience different cultures and different things. Now, you were over there for something else, right?
We were there for a wedding.
Okay.
And we were lucky enough to be in, my wife's family is in the ag. Over there, they dairy farm, and then they raise crops as well. And then have 4,000 sheep, which is a lot of sheep compared to around here. Whew. But, so we were fortunate to be able to go to the rural area and kind of see, backwoods, what they do and the difference.
What location was that then?
So we were in Victoria, and we were real near the New South Wales border. So we were about 20 miles away from the New South Wales border, and actually got to go over to and look at some pastures where they had some cattle as well. So yeah, it's very interesting. Probably one of the most interesting things I saw was their flood irrigation and how their water system works over there. They have to buy all their water, other than natural rainwater, but for all their irrigations, they have to buy all their water. And put it in kind of perspective, it's like us buying propane for grain drying in the fall. So they have to contract it. They have to know ahead of time what they're going to need, and then they can only contract. The way it was explained to me is a percent of the dam. So the Murray River that they're on is run by one of 3 dams, and they can only contract so many gallons based on or I say gallons, they go in liters, of how full the dam is. So if it's 70% full, they can run a contract 70% of that, and so it's very interesting. And I'm probably not getting it 100% correct, but that's the general idea that I got from it.
I'm with you though. It's with the rural communities, the rural people. At least that's the space we're in, working with farmers who are in rural areas. You live in a rural area, and it's just neat to see. I think it's like the heart of the country. You go to the big city, and it's totally different, and some of it's just almost downright offensive, some of what you see. But for the most part, it's just really cool to see what real people of the country are.
Right.
That are making it happen. So that's cool that we have that in common. Ray also has a fun fact that last year around this time, he hosted me at his house and I stayed there. Was not planned necessarily, but their farm has a John Deere cart that's got a unique feature on it, which is not common to most carts. It has tank scales, so it's probably a 2010 model year, maybe
2014.
2014, okay. 2014 with hydraulic drive, and it's a 1910 cart. It's a 350 bushel capacity. It's got a lot of great things going for it, but it did not have tank scales, and you can't get tank scales until now, their most recent model year release, which I don't even think you can get those carts yet, like 2025 probably.
Yeah, I think that's
the C-Series.
Sounds about right.
Well, unless you get the real big ones. And so, Ray, how many years ago did you guys put scales on that thing?
I believe it was probably 6 to 7 years, give or take, that we've had it on our carts so far. It's been an amazing upgrade to our air seeding and just our overall application process. You know, there's a lot of guessing going in when you're doing. You calibrate, you do it by the book, and there's always just a lot of guessing going on. But then when you add scales, you can put a exact number on what you're doing, that everything's going on correctly. Because I mean, it just, as every farmer knows, seed costs, fertilizer costs, I mean, you do have to get down to the nitty gritty and make sure that things are doing, things are going on correctly. And if you don't, a small screw up of, a lid being open, or in one case, where our lid had rust underneath of it, and I didn't know it at the time. I was leaking air out, and it was actually a custom job, believe it or not. And I did 10 acres, and it kind of, I'll go off on the story, but it was the night before Luke was born.
Oh, good timing.
Kind of night before Christmas, kind of deal. But no, we were real busy trying to get wrapped up. I was trying to get through the weekend of getting some custom work done before I took a couple days off for when Luke was born. And I went out, and if there was something to go wrong that night, it went wrong. And so I loaded up with fertilizer, went and made 10 acres in a few rounds, and as I always do, I do 10 acres and check, and I was 100 pounds light. And I was like, oh, I don't know what's wrong. I did everything right. I calibrated 3 times like the book says, like I've always done for 10 years. And
you just seeded 2 weeks before, finished seeding your guys' stuff, right?
Yep.
And you just parked it. Should have been fine.
I switched to the strip tiller and then went back to the air seeder, so I thought everything should be fine. It just unhook and hook back up. And then I came and I checked it. I was 100 pounds light, so I went out, recalibrated again, did another 10 acres, still 100 pounds light. And so this time I left everything on, left the fan running, and did a walk around, and sure enough, I could hear the air coming out from underneath the lid. And it was midnight, so I was like, all right, that's it. That's my sign to be done. I'm going home. We're getting some rest and going having a baby tomorrow.
Having a baby, which
well,
my
wife is. But yeah.
I'm just there for support.
Yep, I'm just moral support. So no, that was. I mean, I've had similar occasions where it's really saved me. But in that case, 20 acres, I could turn around up, just put on another 100 pounds, go finish, and then we're back to the normal rate. But there's been several instances where that's happened. Something similar has happened, and whether I have a wrong rate in or bad calibration or something, and it's really paid for itself in those instances. So
I remember the first time I was at your farm, your guys' farm. I was invited for an inspection or something, and I happened to be the guy that came out, and I saw this thing on there. I saw some scales. Like, man, I've never seen this before. Like, who did this, and what is it? Like, I see some load cells. Like, this is interesting. And then I don't know if it was at that moment or maybe a little later when we started getting interested in it. We got really interested when I heard Lud say, the farm owner, say, you know what, I'm not trading because I can't get a cart with scales. I'm like, whoa, this thing's got value.
Yep.
This thing is helping this farmer.
Yep.
That means it could help other farmers. And so my ears were really pricked when I heard that. And I'm like, I need to lean in here. I need to see what's going on. How do we do this? How do we mass produce this? How do we refine it? And what's it going to cost? Like, is this economical? Is it, like, how can we do it and offer it to other people? And so then I got to talking to Ray more. That's probably where we got more connected, closer, connected, and finding out, hey, we got a lot of things in common, values in common, and just a desire to do a good job and a lot of cool things. So anyway, coming up to last year, I actually asked if you guys would be willing to let us show your cart at Dakotafest here. Little did I know, towing a cart 75 miles is not as easy as it sounds, even with a 1-ton truck with some weight in it.
It pulls super easy, doesn't it?
It does until the shimmy happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're talking about that too here. Since then, Ray's got a desire to come up with a brake system to stop that shimmy. And I've heard, since we released that video on YouTube, if you guys haven't heard it or seen it, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and look up, I don't know what the title is, Madison.
Yeah, I'll link it to the episode so you can just go straight there.
It's the image is funny because we inverted one of the, it's a rear view from the back of the pickup looking at the front of the cart and the wheels. And on one image, the wheels are literally like sideways.
Yep.
And then on the other image, they're straight. So it's like, and we reference John Deere has a shimmy, or the shimmy, it's like the death wobble. You have to stop.
Death wobble, yep.
You practically have to stop to get it to come out of it. And it happens just over the slightest bumps. It's so annoying. So if everything would go well, you could tow this thing at 35 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
life would be good. But that did not happen on my trip. And since then, some people commented, well, if you run straps from the front caster area to the back, or ways to keep it from shimmying, that helps and stuff like that. So that would have been nice to know.
Yeah, well, and quite honestly, it happens when you're towing it down the road with the tractor as well. And that's, Matt and I were talking, before, and that's where the real problem lies is when you're buzzing down the highway, and it just happens on a blacktop road usually. You'd be heading down the road and all of a sudden your wheels just start going wonky. Well, if it's dusty, you can't see them back there. You can feel it, but you can't see them. So it gets super unsafe, and when that happens. So yeah, I got some ideas in mind that hopefully will help you guys out and help other farmers out too with it, that we can get that knocked out, because not only is it dangerous, but it's hard on tires, and tires aren't cheap. So
the smoke was rolling at times.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yep.
I can believe it.
Yep, and then there was times it felt like it wanted to jerk my rear end into the ditch. I mean,
well,
it
it's because you were driving a Dodge.
Well, that's true. Well, it's Ram. They got rid of the Dodge.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I thought Ram was better.
Different paint.
Well, check out the video. It's pretty comical and interesting, I guess. And again, we just connected more, and on the way back, bringing that cart home, it got really late. I think it was a 3-hour trip here, maybe longer back. I even crossed a bridge I shouldn't have. I was taking some side roads to cut some time. Of course, there's road construction.
Right.
And I came across this bridge. I stepped it off with my feet, because my feet are true 12-inch. And I was like, I think I got 2 inches on each side. So I went real slow. I was like, I hope. I had to look up what's the weight of this cart, because it had a tonnage weight rating. I'm like, oh, this would be terrible. And it's pitch black. No one around. I'm in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, which I love, by the way, unless I get stuck on a bridge.
It's nice and quiet.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I can't turn around. You cannot turn this thing around.
No.
It's not going to happen. Like, it would be, what do I back up in the dark and on a narrow road that's as wide as this cart? So I went for it, and thankfully I made it to your place, and it was like, okay, it's close to midnight, and you invited me to stay at your place. Like, oh, thank you. So that was really nice. And ironically and surprisingly, I've stayed at a lot of farmers' places, whether it just worked out, it made sense, or they offered it, or there was no hotel available in the area to drive 2 hours. Farmers are so hospitable and have had great connections, relationships, and they're long lasting. You're never going to forget someone when you have that kind of situation. So, Ray, something else I experienced and heard about when I was with you at one point is you got a little hobby thing going on.
I do.
With your machining skills.
I do.
Tell us about what you're doing for like a kind of the toy category of your hobby.
Yeah, so it all started about, I think my wife and I were just talking about this, about 13 years ago. I was intrigued with making toys. I've always been intrigued with making my own toys growing up as a kid. And so once I started being able to weld and machine and getting a little handier with that, then I started making my own corrals for cattle working. And so it started out where I got 13 nieces and nephews, and so I wanted to build them for Christmas a toy that would be at my parents' place, so every time they'd come to Grandma and Grandpa's house, they would have a toy there. And so I'd admit it was a little bit rough, the first one out there, but it got the job done. And so I mimicked my dad's corral in it at home, and so then it was kind of you could play with it inside and then go outside and see Grandpa and uncles, working cattle the same way. So that was the very first one. I believe it was 2 years ago. I actually started as a business and as a side business. And 2 years ago, we sold 50 corral sets between Thanksgiving and Christmas Day.
Wow.
And
how big are these things?
So the standard size is 2 foot square, and then they're 3 inches tall. And so they kind of fit the 1/32 scale, I believe. So
which Runnings does carry a lot of 1/32, so they should really get in touch with you.
Shout out to Runnings.
Exactly.
Sponsor.
Yep. So we sell quite a few, and they go all over. I've sold some as far as New Mexico, all the way out to West River, South Dakota. Even just up the road. I've actually, one of my best customers is just down the road from me, and for all their grandkids, they have a complete set.
Nice.
So,
what's a complete set look like? What is like the epic setup of your corrals? I'm sure there's like livestock, horses, people, vehicles.
Yes. So we don't actually sell any of the livestock or the people, but we sell the corral, the floor plans for the corral. So. The ultimate set is a working facility to be able to bring the cows down an alleyway. We have a calf pen or sick pen, however you want to design it, and then a little feedlot. So that's our standard corral. Then we have a feedlot corral. So if you're looking at finishing your calves, because that's the ultimate goal, right? You want to finish your
realistic.
Realistic, yep. So we offer a feedlot design, and then our newest design is a magnetic corral. So this is the ultimate pasture corral. So it's got fence on 3 sides, and then it comes with a set of panels that you can have magnets in the bottom that you can move your panels around and set up your own fence and your own corrals as well. And then I have feed bunks and a calving shed and water tanks you can move around. And
wow,
this is an extensive thing here.
This is not
just
will
fit every need you ever want as a kid.
It's not just a fence. It's not just a corral of fences. It's legit.
Yeah, it's not Grandpa's wooden little set that folds
Lincoln
up.
Log.
Even those were amazing because I used those as a kid. But
wow. So how do you have like a website or social media or anything?
How does
someone
page,
get?
Yep,
okay.
Yep. So if you go and look up Ray's Welding and Machine on Facebook and be sure and like our page and they have. All of our pictures and designs are on there, and
nice. And now we're gonna have to show a picture of this. This is too good to.
Yeah, I'll find the picture.
I know you people listening on the podcast aren't gonna be able to see the picture, but this is gonna be a shout out to the YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you do that as a hobby, and that looks like it's getting to be a little bit more involved of a hobby.
It is. It's fun. The part that I enjoy the most is seeing and hearing feedback from customers. I will get some of the most elaborate pictures back of the imagination that these kids have. I even got one this last summer where the kid was starting to build his own toys to put on tractors, and once he saw this set up, his mom knew that he had to have it, and they got it, and so now she's sending me pictures of stuff they're building, and seeing pictures of the dads and the grandpas, playing with these kids and getting them interested in ag is just phenomenal, and that's was the whole idea in the first place, was just to get our young people interested in and want to play with toys and ag, and that build that imagination that I had as a kid.
That is so cool. That is so neat. I know my son would love it. He's big into Ertl, and he would love the realistic. He's going after real. In fact, when I play with him, he's like, "Dad, will you play with me?" And if I get off track and I start goofing off, Dad, that's not how they
Pull
do
it together.
Yep.
Dad, they don't do that. You know, a combine doesn't do wheelies. And it's like, come on, why not?
Well, my son, who's 15 months old, we got him to about 20 different animal sounds. And if I point at a cow and I say, whack, whack, he gives me the frown that his mother gives me some days. So
you're 15-month-old.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
he knows that that's not right, that I need to say moo. So
he's going to be ahead of his grade, ahead of his age. Yeah. Well, very good. What are other things like? So you've gotten into some pretty neat hobby thing here. You're working for a farmer, got all kinds of variety. You had that machining, technical training and background. You even did some machining for production machining, it sounds like. How about we go to the question of, you've gone through some life experiences. You got some time on your belt. What's something you'd recommend to a younger you or to those listening that, might have saved them saved you some time, or would recommend to them, or something you're glad that you did?
Yeah. So my biggest recommendation to young people coming out of high school is find out what you love to do. Go find, there's so many people looking for help right now, and in so many different fields. Go find out what you love to do. And I'm sure, like a business like Ready, somebody that's high school, come in and just work the summer, and see if engineering is a path for them, or find your local a friend that knows a farmer that you could go and work for the summer or even longer, and really find out what you're passionate about. So my passion was creating things and building things and being outside and being in nature. So I enjoyed that part when I was working in industry, but I was inside all the time. And I worked night shift pretty much my entire career as a machinist. Well, you sleep during the day, you work at night, and you're
not
inside.
Compatible.
Yeah. And so my nature side just wanted to be out and, be out in the fresh air and be able to create things out there. So my biggest recommendation, I guess, to somebody would be go find out what you love, and then you'll never work a day in your life.
What if I love video games and I'm in high school?
If you love video games, there's a career in video gaming.
Farming Simulator.
Exactly.
Yes.
When are we going to get ready on Farming Simulator? That's what I want to know.
I think some passionate fans will do it for us.
Just a little.
That would be serious
cool.
mods right there.
Yep. We could mod it up, just got the Ready rebuild done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, and you talk about in video games, with the technology that is coming out into the farming world now, with the tractors that are driving themselves, with the technology in your scale setup here, is huge. To be able to apply that into a career is definitely possible. The drones that are coming out for spraying. I mean, you're playing a video game in real life. You're doing real life video gaming, and so yeah.
What's crazy is we've got Tenacity Ag right across the way, and the guy that's going to be on the podcast here in a little bit is just looking at us, wondering, checking us out.
He can feel the force that we're talking about.
He can. He's like, how'd you know we were talking about you? But we're staring across the way here, just across the road, 20 feet, and they got some big drones, 110-pound capacity, and they do aerial seeding with it. Mm-hmm. They're doing cover crops, things like that. And I'm like, what? I'm behind on even this idea. I know I've seen it and stuff. I haven't been around enough. I haven't talked to enough people, but it keeps showing up at these shows, and I am really excited. This is a shout out to that episode.
I think even from the shows, they're getting bigger and bigger.
The drones.
Yeah, the drones.
Yeah.
And I think, we've had on this podcast a crop duster and a close personal friend. And so he is of the opinion that, one day he doesn't think that drones will ever be on the level of airplanes and the air tractors being able to cover that much ground. But I'd honestly challenge him, is like every year, almost half a year, these drones are getting bigger and bigger. Like, it's gonna flip over sometime, I feel like.
Yeah. Spot spraying, more targeted spraying instead of just zip the whole field.
We're going to see drone, tractors, like the military uses to come down and spray our fields.
Could.
Oh man. Well, that would be. I mean, it's hard to think about, but I remember someone said that self-propelled combines are never going to take off.
Right.
It's never going to work, and it's always going to be the pull type. Well, now look at what's the thing of the past.
Right.
The pull type, and it's the self-propels that you have to have them to be efficient and all that stuff. So there's a lot of changes that can happen. And another guy said, Greg Sauter used to own Precision Planning. In one of the things that I was at, one of the seminars he did or a show, I sat down and listened to him. He said the biggest risk to farmers is being resistant to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a good word to just be in tune with what's going on and don't change on the things that don't need to change, like values and good old, the things that are the bedrock of civilization, society, all that stuff. But technology and things like that, things that can help improve our lives, improve other people's lives, those are good things to see the change in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm fortunate enough that my boss is very open to technology and knowing what's out there. Hence the reason he allowed me to come down today and look around and see what's all new here at the show. But and that's kind of where we went with the scales. He knew it was a leap trying to get something that wasn't. It was very new technology when we put it on our air cart, but it was a risk he was willing to take and try it out. And I'd encourage a lot of farmers, and especially family farmers. The old system works. It does. That's helped bring the new system in, because it was new when a lot of these older farmers were, when they were starting out, they had a lot of new technology and a lot of new things. So everything keeps evolving drastically. And I think it's a lot faster now than it was, 50, 60 years ago. And I think that's probably a harder part to see, that it's evolving so fast. But I definitely encourage that for family farms and older generations to let the new guys screw up. Let them come in, let them find out their strengths and their weaknesses, and encourage them to go out and find new technology to help make things better. It's the bottom line's getting really, really thin, and so technology like Ready is coming up with anything from your notch discs to your greaseless bushings to your stainless meters. All that saves you from having more downtime. To the tank scales, I mean, we gotta polish that bottom line as best we can, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you could invest in anything, unlimited budget, unlimited time, what would you do? What do you think? You ever thought of that?
Oh, that's a big question. Probably investing in letting the non-farmers know what it is like to farm, or what it's about. There's certain communication misunderstandings about what happens on a farm, and what we do on the farm. And I think for the public, our consumers, to know how amazing this farming life is. The nature part, we talked about that a little bit ago, but I get to see full circle, right? Working with cattle, working with planting. So being able to see a newborn calf is absolutely amazing. Being there when my son was born, it's a joy that you can't put into words, but you're seeing a full circle of that. And I think people that live in the city don't understand, don't get to see that. They don't experience it. It's not their fault. They just don't get to experience it. So I think investing in putting that information out there, doing these podcasts so anybody around the world can see, what it's like to raise a crop of beans or corn or raise cattle, and find out where their food comes from, and know that it just doesn't come from the store.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. It's like, what? It comes from somewhere before the store.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, we've talked to people, Matt, who have run into those people before, where it's just needs a little bit more education,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's kind of the theme in anything. When you walk in someone's shoes, it could be vice versa too, like farmers walking in the shoes of people who are more of the city slickers, right? And seeing what they got to deal with. But just in this theme of what's going on out in the rural communities, the farms, and seeing the challenges they face, and then the rewards of it too, with just being out in God's green earth creation. You talked about the birth of things, but then also having that faith to put the seed in the ground and watch it come up, seeing the cycle of how the weather affects it. And boy, it seems like if you're not a praying person and you get into farming, you become a praying person. I mean, it's just, you feel so helpless. And it comes down to even life in general. Like if your son is not doing well, or the birth gets complicated, you're powerless.
Yep.
I mean, sure, we've got some great technology and medical professionals out there, but at some point, life is God's thing, and He is the one who's the author of it. And without Him, I mean, He's like, we can't make life happen. We can't decide like, oh, don't die, I'm going to save you,
right,
on our own. It's like that really brings you close to a creator, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I've my wife and I have had this conversation many times, being in the cattle world, of how and even the grain world too, but you see the connections between human life, animal, and crops. There's one connection. When you put them all side by side, it's amazing to see how we have one creator between all of it, and there's a similarity between all of it. With in the cattle world, you go out there and you work all year long hoping that calf comes out alive, and it may not, but you keep on going, you keep on pushing on. And you need to have that faith that it's going to work out. It's going to, we'll keep on going. And that's a big part of everybody's life, really. And
Good. So a little pause here.
Yeah.
Any other questions you can think of that would be good?
I think we covered a lot of good ones.
Or is there anything you're thinking of too? Or that we could go down?
I think we're getting pretty...
Adam had some that I maybe forgot.
No, you already asked the one that he wanted about what he would do with...
Yeah, was there 3?
The other one was, let's see, mine would be, field meals.
Field meals.
What is your favorite field meal you've ever had?
Should I ask that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Speaking about being out in the field, what's your favorite field meals?
Favorite field meal? Well, my favorite, it wouldn't be my wife's favorite because we just had this discussion yesterday, actually. Growing up, my grandma always brought us a zucchini hot dish. And if you live in the Midwest, I think it's like a standard practice at any household that there's a zucchini dish of some sort. It could be zucchini bread,
That's amazing, by the way, zucchini bread.
It is. But my grandma would always have extra zucchini, and she would show up just unannounced, just random, show up in her 80-some model Lincoln, it looked like a Peterbilt, this long hood on it, show up, I mean, classic car. But she would show up with 2 giant pans of homemade zucchini hot dish. And just because we're in that season, I think that's about my favorite farm field meal right there.
Yep. And what else was in that besides zucchini?
Zucchini, carrots, ground beef, sour cream, and cheese on top.
Nice,
And,
nice.
Yeah,
Zucchinis are really unique. Is it a vegetable? I think it's a vegetable.
I think it's a vegetable.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's got to be, yep.
Yep. Unlike tomato.
That's a fruit.
That's a fruit.
That's a
Yep.
fruit.
I know. I
don't
remember
get
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it takes on like the flavor of. It seems like it takes on the flavor more of its surroundings, and it's just a good binder and just a good add to a lot of things.
Yep.
Yes. Very weird. If you're listening and you haven't had something with zucchini in it, seek it out.
Yeah,
Try it next time you
good.
see it on the menu or something. You got to try it or
Grill
look
it,
up the menu.
fry it. I mean, there's so many ways for zucchini.
Yeah, in our garden, in my parents' garden, the zucchini grows like weeds. If you don't get to it soon enough, it's like huge, huge things, like bigger than a football. You know, and then they get real tough, real tougher. But no, that's good. What's next?
Well, we're gonna finish walking through the show, and I think head on back north. But no, it's been a great time here. I sure appreciate you guys asking for me to stop by and take some time of your day. And yeah, if you guys are there listening, looking for an extra add-on that John Deere doesn't offer, you know, the tank scales, I tell you, we've enjoyed it. We really have. It's paid for itself multiple times over. We just did a new rebuild on our on our tool this summer from you guys, and that was an adventure.
You got to do the labor.
We got to do the labor.
Thank you, by the way.
Yep.
So I didn't have to do it.
Yep. Oh, I can't take all the credit. One of my coworkers and I, that was our winter project. And,
oh, man. Do you have to be a machinist to rebuild the drill?
No, but I will tell you, an air hammer is your best friend, absolute best friend.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, it was all good. We had all of our parts were there that we needed, and we got them all put on, and the beans grew this year, so we'll see in a few months how they do.
Got to get them in the bin.
Yep.
Hopefully those prices improve. So 10 years old, going on 20 on that drill.
Yep.
Cedar. I mean, that thing, it looks great still, and even if it starts to fade some, I mean, the machine is solid. You've got stainless in it. You've got the tank scales. Now you've rebuilt the drill again. I mean, this thing's going to be rocking for a long time again.
It is. It is. And that's one of the beauties of a company like you guys that can keep this machine, that the parts that wear out, keep them new and keep them, going. Machinery costs are tough. It's tough to buy a new pieces of equipment, especially for new guys going. But I'd recommend Ready any day of the week.
Well, hey, thanks for that unsolicited shout out.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. Well, thanks, Ray. Again, it's been great to get to know Ray and now his family. And I see his little son checking out the conveyor over here.
We better write him down for some stainless.
That's right.
I think the
if you touch it, you buy it.
I think the stainless elevator looks like a good slide to it.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah,
the mom quickly brought him back to safety because he was climbing up it from the hopper part.
See, it's a good thing she's here, because I'd be sitting back with my phone being like, hey, check
Let's
this
see
out
what
in 18 years.
Let's get that on the B-roll too.
Yeah.
But no, it's really a treat to have you, and we really appreciate you, and I've appreciated getting to know you, Ray.
Yeah. I sure appreciate it, guys.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of After Hours Ag. If you really enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and helps us grow and helps us reach more people. And remember, there's still a future in farming, so let's get there together.